Howdy, folks. I'm Renee Head. Thank you for joining our webinar. Today, we'll be talking about three key success factors that help your digital transformation succeed. This is part two of a two-part series on digital transformation. Now, our first webinar focused on why 85% of digital transformations fail, and we talked through the five major pitfalls to avoid when performing a digital transformation at your company. You can find the replay for webinar one on our website. Today, we'll talk through part two of the series, which will be focused on how you can be part of the 15% that succeed at digital transformation. And this webinar will take about 20 minutes, and we'll also post this on our website for you to replay later. The contrast here is that webinar one talks through what to avoid, while this webinar will tell you what is essential to do. It's the combination of the two, avoidance and essentials, that will ensure success for your digital transformation. Just a little about my background. Currently, I run methodical engineering within the Methodical Group, where our focus is to provide our clients with world-class digital solutions. I have over 30 years of hands-on experience with IT service delivery and digital transformation, and I've gained this over nearly 1,000 projects. I've seen many digital transformations fail and many succeed. Today, you'll see the key success factors that drive real victories for a digital transformation. First, let's do a recap of webinar one, which focused on the five major pitfalls to avoid. Let's do a quick countdown. At number 5 is the lack of a business strategy or even a poor business strategy. If you are struggling with your business direction, you can't possibly decide on what needs to be transformed. Next is really about understanding what transformation means. Without a real transformation, you'll spend much of your time and your budget just trying to optimize, hoping for better performance and output. Third, this is likely most common. Saddling your overburdened team with additional transformation duties means that any type of precision will likely be cut just so they can keep their head above the water. Now, the number 2 pitfall, your digital transformation will take time, likely years, during which your markets may change, your business strategy may change, and this means that your transformation needs to adjust and adapt to this change in flight. And the number 1 pitfall that we discussed on webinar 1, misalignment between what the business wants and what the transformation plan can actually deliver. Any one of these pitfalls alone can and will derail your success. So we've seen the pitfalls. Now let's shift gears and let's talk about the critical success factors, the essential things that you must do. You should think of these as essential elements or motions that should be included in the digital transformation approach. It's not simply about selecting a new technology. I'll introduce 3 critical success factors, and then we'll dig further into each one. The first success factor is trends, which is all about your data and what it can tell you. Your existing business data and your operational data can help guide your digital transformation before you begin. Next is talent. Software and technology don't solve business problems. People do. Having the right talent and the right skills before, during, and after your transformation is essential. Finally, technique, which is about ensuring you incorporate key practices into your digital transformation plans. So let's dig into each one of these success factors. Let's talk about trends. Right up front, you'll want to determine why you are transforming. Presumably, your business strategy will shift the company in a particular direction, and you need to deploy new capabilities to support the shift. Your business data can provide you with some guiding insights. Interestingly, 42% of organizations either don't or cannot measure the current status of their own business strategy, so they don't even know exactly where they are, what adjustments should be made, or whether or not the business is on track with the strategy. There are several areas where an analysis of your business data can provide some reassuring guidance. Management indicators about making the right decisions, understanding what are the regular decisions we need to make, who is making them, based on what, how do the financial conditions change our decisions. There's also some performance indicators you should look at. What is our business performance trend? Which factors influence those trends the most? Are we executing on our strategy? How are we delivering on our value propositions? And what are your markets telling you? What are you able to offer to the markets? What are they buying? What more do the markets need? What do they want? What do other markets want that you're not currently in? And then finally, the customer voice. What shapes your customer satisfaction? How do your customers make decisions? Which segments do they come from? Why do they engage you? Why do they leave you? All of these insights can be harvested from the business data and are key before you begin your digital transformation. Your operational data is also important to help focus your transformation. You need to know, what are you going to transform? A staggering 80% of companies don't analyze their operational data prior to a digital transformation. They are guided by what everybody else is doing must be good for us too. You'll recall that this is the root of the leading cause of failures: transforming the wrong things. As with the business data, there's a plethora of insights hidden in your operational data that you should know even before defining your digital transformation. What are your critical workloads? Where are your operational workloads? Who's doing them? How long does it take? How much does it cost? How efficient you are? Where is your waste? Where are the efficiency in your processes? Which processes can be automated? Which processes can be eliminated? What risks are you carrying? And then also where the hidden costs are. Is your operation sustainable? Do you need something else? Where can you accelerate? Are you compliant after the transformation? How do you measure quality? And then you can see what you need to see if you're able to. Where are the gaps in your data if you're not? How do you create better insights? What data will you need to be collecting? Understanding the trends and what your data is telling you is key to drive success. The second critical success factor is talent. We all know that a digital transformation is a significant undertaking. You should also recognize that much of your team, they may be really good at running operations and fixing things, but likely not as good at a transformation. 67% of companies don't have the expertise on staff just to execute a digital transformation. You'll likely need to find a partner who can help. And acquiring the right talent is not as simple as an RFP. You may not even know the right questions to ask, so you'll need to arm yourself with information. What expertise do you need? Transforming, that's different than running. Your trends can provide some guidance to focus your transformation, but now you'll need to break down your transformation into specific skill sets. Laying out your transformation on a timeline is essential to understand the timing of the skill sets and the expertise you'll need. Keep in mind that digital transformations can take years. Determining which parts you'll do first and what expertise you'll need for each part will be essential. There are several methods for acquiring talent, and almost all of them mean going to the market. However, you still have options to consider. Some organizations prefer to partner with large system integrators, while others will hand select their own team from the market, one skill set at a time. You'll also need to identify what is important to you before you acquire the right talent. What does your risk profile look like? How much assurance do you need? How much should you spend? How much can you spend? What's the level of variance that the results can accept? What level of variance will cause a negative ROI? How do you keep the team from failing? How do you keep the team from falling apart? Remember what I said earlier. Technology and software don't solve business problems. People do. You need to find exactly the right talent that you need for your digital transformation at exactly the right time. Only those partners who can work with you on that should make your short list. Once your transformation is complete, and likely earlier along the transformation journey, the team that you do have will need to undergo some change and acquire some new skills. Surprisingly, about 75% of organizations expect their current staff to simply pick up the ongoing support, maybe with a little extra training. The reality is that even if your current staff does acquire the skills, their level of proficiency will be too low to sustain your transformed environment. They'll be beginners learning as they go. You should plan for this ramp up in competency by understanding which skills and at what level of proficiency you need in order to sustain a transformed business environment. Now, a good practice here is to retain some of the expert talent from your partner, preferably a few folks that were actually involved in the transformation. They can help boost your team, even train them, and at least provide some support in the short term until your own team comes up to speed. You'll also be faced with new processes. Hopefully, your digital transformation either eliminated or reduced the tedious activities and automated many others and drives operational efficiency into your organization. And new processes, along with new ways and new styles, may also mean adjustments in the organization. This is particularly true if your transformation allows you to converge or unify workforces, or it introduces new business capabilities that need to be managed differently. And it's also not unusual, actually preferred, for new business practices to be defined and deployed, which may introduce a whole new set of skills and competency requirements that you never had in the organization before the transformation. So here's why talent is critical. Change in skills, change in processes, change in organizational structure, change in practices, all enabled by talented people. The final success factor is all about the techniques and the approaches that are essential for a digital transformation. Here, I don't mean the approaches on how to plan, build, test, and deploy. I'm really speaking about that next level up, the essential but often disregarded techniques. The first technique is about how you involve your stakeholders. And here, by stakeholders, you should consider your technical teams, your business team, your leadership teams, and even your customers as stakeholders. And each is a different audience that needs to be involved and heard in different ways. If even one of these stakeholder groups perceive that your transformation failed, then regardless of how successful you are, you will have failed. 72% of organizations experience resistance to change. Everything from that's not how we've always done it. I've even heard you hired me for a different job, not this. So clear and constant socialization of the right messages to each of those audience will be essential to keep them on board and enthusiastic about the transformation. They'll want to know what is changing. What are we trying to do? What are we transforming? What'll be different? These messages have to come from the top as well. Executive enthusiasm and how you are shifting the company into a better position. Each audience will also want to know how they'll be affected. What changes will they see day to day? How will my job change? What will stay the same? What skills and training will I need? Why should I even be enthusiastic about this transformation? Market facing functions will be keen to understand how the customers will be impacted. How will the interaction with customers change? What additional value will we be able to provide our customers? When? How will I get paid for selling some of this new stuff? Your digital transformation has to address the concerns and questions of all of the audience through the channels that each audience feels most comfortable and with easy means of providing feedback and inputs. Clearly, this is most essential earlier during the planning of your digital transformation. This feedback you receive through this technique should be incorporated into the trends we spoke about earlier to help guide and focus your transformation. The second essential element to technique is de-risking your digital transformation from beginning to end. It's interesting that this technique, most people and organizations subscribe to de-risking, but don't really execute with discipline. The risk is hidden in the complexities, the unknowns. Decomposing and eliminating complexities is the simplest technique to bring that invisible risk into the light so that you can address it. 57% of organizations simply accept the complexities of the end state, usually because it's a hot topic in the trade magazines or on social media. I've seen where the board has issued a mandate without fully understanding the implications, or some large company has touted some significant gains in doing a particular transformation. However, not realizing that there is hidden risk in the complexity means that you've accepted the risk. You're certainly carrying it. So if you don't plan to succeed, then you plan to fail, which is exactly what happens. Decomposing the overall transformation should show you which transformation steps will achieve each of the business goals. Your digital transformation should directly map from the planned business outcomes right down to the solution and technology level. And you need to track or measure the results back to these planned outcomes during the transformation. When you see a massive variance in what was planned and what is actual, then your transformation needs to adapt. Don't just continue. Decomposing the complexity also exposes what else should transform. There are dependencies that have to be considered in order for your transformation to progress smoothly and to attain the business goals that you've set. I've seen many organizations, particularly in the past few years, pouring investment dollars into transforming their technology to cloud without any consideration for transforming the tools and the support processes. This leads to a situation where their new cloud environment costs more than the old technology that they had. They didn't take advantage of the new capabilities, tools, and processes that cloud enables to completely transform their IT operations along with the technology. Your digital transformation should consider several areas that are all interdependent. And I know many of you heard this many times: people, process, and technology. The methods that you use to decompose the complexity, these are not terribly difficult to understand and learn. And to put it simply, just about any method of your choice can be used. The goal is to decompose the transformation and express it in terms of incremental, steady changes. Many of the risks will present themselves in this decomposition. There's other risks that you may need to ferret out either by decomposing again or examination of what will change. And oftentimes, several of the key risks are implied based on regulatory mandates and may not actually appear directly in your transformation plan. So be sure to include activities to address those too. Every risk can be addressed with one or more ameliorations, either through an activity, a reprioritization, some sort of control, or sometimes simply in the way that you measure progress. Your digital transformation should also define these key metrics that you'll measure along the way. Now, make no mistake that these transformation metrics are likely different than what you measure when you're running your business. They need to be able to answer a seemingly simple question: how's our transformation doing? You'll have to employ techniques to measure progress, cost, workload of the execution resources, blockers you've encountered, pace, impact, value produced, efficacy, a plethora of new and potentially temporary metrics that will answer that simple question. So those are the key success factors that we see in digital transformations that succeed. First is understanding the trends in your data and harvesting those insights that will guide and focus your transformation. The second is about acquiring the right talent and skills, the exact skills you need at exactly the right time to execute and to support with precision. And thirdly, employing the essential practices to win over your stakeholders and address the risk in your transformation. Now, a digital transformation, it's a symphonic orchestration, loosely coupled yet interdependent elements, all done simultaneously. It's tricky. Paying attention to the trends, the talent, and the techniques can help you be successful. That brings us to the end of our webinar. I'd like to thank all of you for your time and attention. As I mentioned, this webinar will be available for replay on our website at www.methodicalgroup.com. For our next webinar, we'll zoom in a bit on the talent success factor and talk about tailoring your workforce solutions. Of course, if you have questions or you'd like additional information, please feel comfortable contacting us by email. I'm Renee Head, and thank you all for attending.